Hi, I'm Virginia from Right Clinic, and here with me today is Elena. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Virginia. So happy to hear you, to be here. I've watched a lot of your videos, so it's kind of fun and being in one now as well.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you so much. Okay, so do you want to tell us what you do?
Yes. So, where do I start? So I do medical writing combined with graphic design and illustration. So I have a background in science, then also worked for an agency, then as a medical manager, and now I kind of combine these two skills and work mostly for bigger pharmaceutical companies to make communication materials, mostly really for healthcare professionals.
Amazing. And so, how did you get started with that?
Um, It's been a bit of a journey. So I'd say after my PhD, I was a bit on a search of what do I want to do? Like staying in research was also an option, but I also felt a bit like, am I really willing to do the next step, move to the next country where the best lab is, keep going with this sort of lifestyle? And so I started looking around and coincidentally met somebody who was working at an agency and kind of I was in Zurich then at ETH. So obviously you're kind of in a good position to network there as well, to be honest. And then I came to a medical communication agency where I worked as a project manager. So that kind of got me started in that area. And I think it's also something it's a really good thing to get started if you're thinking about that, if there is the opportunity, because you can learn a lot in the agency. It's fast paced, you have to work hard. So it's a win-win for both sides, but also really, really learn a lot. And then, yeah, after that, I decided to work for a pharmaceutical company as a medical manager. But I've always had in my mind that one day maybe I'd do something on my own.
Amazing. So, what's your kind of work setup now? So, you're full-time freelancing or part-time? How do you balance your work life?
So, well, as you know, Virginia, I also have three kids. So the youngest is only 3, and the past years, as it goes, life with kids, it's been a bit of an up and down as well. And we recently moved cities. We moved. I'm based in the Netherlands now. We just moved to Maastricht. So working hours vary a little bit. So that's the good thing about freelancing as well. I still don't work fully. So still trying to get the hours back up with getting enough childcare. But normally I'm like doing something like a 70% job, I'd say. And then there are times when it gets busier and then I try to work a bit more. Like the last quarter of the year is always super busy. Also a time when I often have to turn down projects, but I try to get a bit more work in then as well.
Amazing. So, what would you say to anyone who's trying to, do medical writing, but also learn design as well?
Hmm. Um, so I think when I got my design skills, so generally I think it's good when you enjoy designing as well, right? So, but it's also, I mean, most people who will think about that probably come from that area that they think, well, this is actually fun, and it's something that I already enjoyed during my PhD, working a bit with Illustrator and doing my own little things, and it's been kind of on my mind for a while to professionalize that a little bit. So what I did at the time was I actually did like a couple of month graphic design class while I was in Melbourne when I lived there, and really kind of where you kind of work in an agency setting and you do all the design works that they do in an agency. So you get like the basics of Illustrator or Photoshop, of InDesign, of the whole creative suite. But it really depends on what you want to do as well. Like, because really I do most things that agencies do now as well, but not every medical writer needs to do that, right? And by now there are like tools like Canva and Adobe Express that make it much easier for people to get some basic design skills, and you'll be a bit limited in functionality, but like for a lot of applications that is absolutely enough, right? So I think that's probably so what you need or what you do now is probably not what I did necessarily, because now things have changed a little bit.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely will agree with that because, for example, when I started with even writing, everyone was using Microsoft Word and then Google Docs came along. And then, I really wanted to learn to do a bit of design because I love, making pictures and making social media content. And so when Canva appeared, it was a very affordable way to have slightly better design tools
Mhm.
and not as expensive and I think technical as the Adobe suite. So even with video editing, I moved from kind of free stuff to then investing in Adobe Premiere Pro. But if I went straight into the Adobe suite, it would have been really overwhelming. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to build up if you want to, go in the more professional direction of design. So thank you for sharing that. And so I would say, what do you enjoy the most about your work? What keeps you going?
So I think generally what I like about being self-employed and or having my own business is that when things don't work fully like you think they are, when you feel like, oh, I really need to change, it's up to you to do that, right? So you don't have to quit and find something else, but you can say, well, this isn't quite what I'm enjoying. Where's the problem? How can I solve it? And then it's up to you to do it. And for instance, last year I had a bit of I kind of want to see a bit more progress now that we're slowly getting out of the baby phase at home, that I've got a little bit more capacity. And I've been, collaborating more on animation videos, for instance, and I've really enjoyed that to do some professional animation videos. Or I've been working with a business coach to set up processes and onboard virtual assistants. And so it's all up to you to build the kind of work environment and business you want. That's probably one thing. Um, Another thing is that I get to combine writing and design. This is also something that I've been wanting to do beforehand, and now I can do it. So I think that those are things that I really enjoyed. And also, of course, there are a lot of I mean, today a lot of jobs give you more freedom than what I had as an employee. Like it's more common to have to work from home, although people go back into the office. It's still common to have a couple of days working from home, which gives you more autonomy. But I quite like that, when I feel like, well, I'm really not productive now, I'll just go out on a run and then I can really get my stuff done again. Um, so yeah, and also just compared to maybe working in a big corporate, you have less meetings, you have less emails, you kind of really get on the project and you get stuff done. So that's also something that I quite enjoy.
Amazing. I love that. And I think having the freedom and flexibility comes at a little bit of a price sometimes. So,
Yeah.
you still need to fit everything else around it and meet deadlines. And I think, when you have to plan to take a lot of time off, what do you do in that situation? What would be your advice?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think it's always essential to, and I'm not saying I'm nailing all of that, right? But because, there are times when things are busy and things don't work great. But generally, I think communicating well with clients about when you're not there, when you'll be away, what your work hours are, that's essential. Kind of a quick note back, well, I can't have this back to you before, I don't know. Just these kind of things can be super helpful for clients. And I think it's like for that, it kind of helps me having been on the other side where I've been giving out a lot of these projects. It's kind of having that perspective. But yeah, I think that's good. You've got to take time off. I think there's no, and I see a lot of freelancers who do the freelancing for the freedom, but then they barely kind of manage to take a vacation or something and burn out in the process. So like just it's something you've got to do, and it's something that also clients will accept. If you do, you've got to take some breaks. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of downsides to the freelancing as well. Also when you have kids, the flexibility is amazing, but also in the beginning, maybe what I underestimated a little bit, like every time you've got a sick day, you've got the flexibility, but it's always an unpaid holiday. So also in pregnancy, when you maybe can work a few less hours or something, it's on your own cost, right? So you kind of also, as a freelancer, sometimes you start valuing what an employer did for you,
Mm.
right? So yeah, it's got its pros and cons, but for me, it's the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's such a good perspective on it. And I think also some people worry about having insurance as a business, as who's liable if something happens. But I think those kinds of incidences are really rare, and in my experience and from what I've heard from other medical writers, so people can feel a bit more confident and less worried about that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. I've never had any incidences. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. So what would be, just to kind of wrap things up, what would be your top three tips for design? And then what are you looking forward to doing in future?
Top three tips for design. Um, well, I think for you've got to have an idea of what you want to do with your design. So if you're a medical writer, I do think looks it's always, even if you don't think about it, like having a professional web page, having a professional post, these things can these things are important, right? It's just the first impression like that. But other than that, maybe it depends on what you want to do. You might not need illustration skills as a medical writer if all you want to do is medical writing, right? So look at your needs first, I'd say, with graphic design. And then, as I said, I think like things like Adobe Express and Canva are probably at the moment better starting points. Although I love doing my class and I really love doing design and all the possibility it gives you. So if you're a total design freak, I'd say go for it. I really waited a long time for that, but yeah. So that's maybe what I'd like to say about design. What do I have to plan? What are my plans for the future? So I'd say I'm in a bit of a phase of testing out new things. As I said, I've been working with like a business coach, and that's kind of been fun. I'm looking into working more with other medical writers to support me to think where I can scale up a little bit with some support without losing any of the quality. Um, Also, and I've been investing quite a bit into setting up the processes last year, which has been a thing. So that's also maybe something good to know. Set up some processes beforehand. I mean, not that I've been doing it, but thank me later. Um, and I really enjoy, for instance, the animation videos and generally coming up with more fixed formats. So that's probably something I'll be looking into as well. Maybe niching down a little bit more, even with my offers, like saying, well, these are the main things I'll offer, because doing and design and medical writing can be a bit of a stretch in times, especially now with AI and a lot of changes coming in. It's can be a bit hard to stay on top. So sometimes I'm thinking, well, maybe I've got to niche down to really focus on products, but it's testing and seeing where I go with things as well a little bit.
Amazing. That sounds really great. And I think I would agree with you in terms of, there are lots of new things coming out all the time with AI and processes. And if you become more of a specialist, then I think that helps you stand out as well. So
Mhm.
I love animation videos. I think they're so important. They're great to explain things. And also visually, like you can't do with writing, but if the writing as a foundation is not strong, then the animation won't make sense. So it's
Oh yeah,
important that,
yeah.
they go together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, that's something that we'll see more and more, right? I think we'll see more and more noise, and it'll probably get easier to make things, but really getting things down to the point. This is where I think the strength is with a good medical writer as well. And I think really getting the storyline to point. This is really something important.
Yeah, amazing. And I really love that you mentioned a storyline as well, because I think, you know, when you communicate, if you can say the foundational things, then that's great. But if you could turn it into a story or add some emotion, then that helps to make you stand out as well. So storytelling is now becoming probably a more important skill, I would say, if you're trying to communicate with people, because you need to make that connection as well so that you're
Yeah.
memorable. So thank you so much for your time today. And I will leave a link to Elena's LinkedIn if you want to follow her or reach out to her on her website. I'll also leave a link to her website in the video description box below. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Virginia. It was my pleasure.
Amazing. It was a pleasure to have you. I love your work and I wish you every success in the future.
Thanks.
All right, we'll see you at the next episode. Thank you for watching or listening, and we hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.